Hey, it's Hannah here, and today I want to talk about the concept of a challenge sandwich. Now, you might have heard me talk about this before, but I just want to talk about it in a little bit more detail. And basically what it means is that you work on the things that your horse finds challenging, sandwiched in between things that they find easier. And sometimes the temptation can be like just to work and work and work at the things that your horse finds difficult. But what we're trying to do is change the emotions around the difficult thing from kind of resistance or anxiety or boredom, whatever it is that your horse is struggling with, or frustration, to ones where they really enjoy doing that behaviour, and then it becomes one of the easy things. And to help that, you want to make the vast majority of your training sessions be really fun and relaxing and joyful, and just have these little snippets of the challenging bits in between. And what this does is actually makes kind of faster progress than just working on it solidly, because as your horse makes that little tiny improvement and you say, hey, that was great, and you back off, the next time you've really reinforced that, and the next time you come around they're ready to try again. So say for example you're working on something your horse finds scary. So say you're reconditioning a horse to a saddle who's had a previous saddle fear. So instead of like working the whole session at the saddle, what you're best to do is start off warming up with something that they find easy, just to get them really into the right frame of mind, make sure they're nice relaxed, and then go and do a little bit with the saddle. And it might be that you just go and at the beginning approach the saddle, get them to target the saddle, they do that a couple times, you say, hey, that was great, and then let's back off and go do something fun again. The fun thing can be anything your horse enjoys. It might be standing and having a cuddle, it might be targeting, it might be popping over a jump. It really doesn't matter, it's going to depend on your horse as to the things they find challenging and the things that they find easy. But by doing that, what you've done is said, hey, that's fantastic, you've done brilliantly there with the saddle, let's back off. So the whole experience of the saddle has been like, oh, well, that was alright, that was quite nice, that was reinforcing, and then it's reinforced again by what comes after it. So one of the things to remember here is that well, there are kind of three stages. So by sandwiching it in the middle, starting off with something that they find easy, you're setting the horse up for success. You're getting them into the right frame of mind, you're making sure they're connected, you're making sure they're relaxed, you're making sure they're with you. And then you do a little bit of the challenging thing, which again you make sure they're successful at, although this will be a little bit tricky for them. You'll be triggering at a low level some of those kind of negative emotions and starting to counter condition them. And then by backing off and doing something really easy again afterwards, you're going to be reinforcing that, because you've got to remember that it's what comes afterwards that makes it reinforcing. And so for example, if touching the saddle means that they get to go and touch their target, which is their favourite thing, that's going to have a really good positive effect. Whereas so what comes afterwards is really important. The other thing that it does is allows your horse to kind of relax again. So once the challenging thing brings them up to here, the nice relaxing thing, really joyful thing kind of brings them back down again. So then the next time when you go back to the saddle again, you're starting off from this nice low base, and you can ask them to kind of step up to the challenge. They were really successful last time, I had a really good outcome. They're probably starting to think, hey, I can go up to the saddle, this is really good, target it again a couple of times, brilliant, jackpot, back off and go and do their favourite thing. So throughout the session you're doing this, like, you know, easy fun stuff, little bit of something challenging, easy fun stuff, little bit of something challenging. And what you often find then, especially if you know, really weight the saddle. So for example, touching the saddle might be the difficult thing, but you only ask them to do it a couple of times, they get a massive jackpot for it, and then they get to go to do their easy thing, which you don't reinforce externally quite so heavily because it's already internally very reinforcing. What you often find is they're like, hey, I love the saddle, I can go do this, I can touch this, I can, you start to get that joy and enthusiasm coming into the challenging behaviour. Now the challenging behaviour might not be anxiety, it might be like, for example, going forwards. So if you've got a horse who really struggles with forwards motivation, set them up for success, get them really doing a behaviour that they really enjoy, get them really motivated and really listening to you, ask for that upwards transition, they give you a nice one, jackpot it, immediately back off and go and do something stationary. So the next time they're like, hey, upwards transition worked quite well for me, I can do it and back off. And what you'll find is that upward transition gets counter conditioned, so they start to, instead of going, oh, I don't like this, it means endless hours of trotting and cantering is hard work, or whatever, you know, assuming the horse that isn't so keen on going forwards, instead they're thinking, I can do this, I've got this. It's really reinforcing. And so again, you'll ask for, you'll set them up for success with this nice easy stuff, ask for the little bit of challenging stuff, go back to really easy stuff, back to the challenging stuff, back to the easy stuff. So you're sandwiching it in amongst all these good emotions, which mean first of all that you're not overfacing your horse, that they're really successful at this challenging thing, and also that those good emotions start to become associated with the challenging thing as well, because they're the ones that are kind of being evoked the strongest in the presence of the challenging thing. So you'll start to change the way that they feel about it through this process. So I hope that's explained it a little more clearly, and it works with anything your horse finds challenging. Just really thinking about, you know, the kind of the opposite emotion. So if it's something anxious making, you probably want to sandwich it in amongst things that are really relaxing and easy and joyful and confidence building. Whereas if you're trying to work on forwards motivation, you might be sandwiching it in between things that they find really easy but quite exciting and really fun, to get them kind of like a little bit revved up so they've got that energy, so that when you ask for the upwards transition, they've got the energy to go for it, and you can really reinforce that. So you kind of want to sandwich it in amongst things that create the opposite behaviour to the challenging, that the challenging one is evoking, that you're trying to change. Does that make sense? so if it's anxiety, sandwich it in between relaxation. If it's lack of motivation, sandwich it in between things that they find really joyful and motivating, so that you start to kind of balance it out. And that's really what we're doing here, is just really balancing out those scales. So I hope that's given you some more ideas, and you can take it and go try it and take it into your training sessions with your horse.